Hey, Adam from the Brisbane channel, and this video is going to be a little bit different from the regular ones. It's going to be not for everybody, it's going to be for a select group of people. People who want to know what goes into making the content for the channel, the visuals in particular, people who are interested in photography, in videography, cinematography, whatever. Yeah, that's the kind of person this is for. And also people who want a discount on gear that's going to help you do those things. Tripods, filters, photographic and video equipment. The reason I'm making this is because there's one piece of equipment that I really rely on a lot to create a bunch of content for the channel. The talking head shots, the time lapses, the B-roll, the interesting looking visuals that I use for the channel that I produce myself. I really rely heavily on this particular thing, and it's called a neutral density filter. And what it does is it allows you to adjust the amount of light coming into the lens of the camera. So I've got one on the camera right now, and it allows me to have, like at the moment, the background is a little bit blurry. If you look at the fence at the back, it's not as clear as, say, my face. And that's because I'm using a wide aperture on the camera, which is a big opening that gives it a shallower depth of field. But in order to do that during the day when it's quite bright, normally it would be overexposed, because when you're shooting video, you're locked into a particular shutter speed. And so you can't really adjust the amount of light coming in through the shutter speed. You can only use the aperture. But if you already want a wide aperture, that's letting in a lot of light. So that can often be overexposed. So that's where the neutral density filter comes in. Put it on the front of the lens and it reduces the amount of light. And you can turn it, because it's a variable neutral density filter, as you turn it, it'll let more or less light into the lens. So this is the case for the one that's on the camera at the moment. And it's a really, really amazing tool. And if you're interested in photography or in producing video content, you really, really need to look into getting a variable neutral density filter. I use it for waterfall photos, I use it for time lapses, a bunch of different things, because it allows me a lot more control over having slower shutter speeds in bright daylight without being overexposed. Or wider aperture in bright daylight without being overexposed. So at the moment I'm doing a time lapse, and I'm just photographing the Queen's Wharf precinct across the road with people walking in and out, walking by, traffic going past as well. And I want to have a slow shutter speed, 1/5 of a second, in order to get that motion blur to give it a more dynamic kind of feel. So nothing's crisp and static. The only thing that is the building itself. I've got on the ND filter, the Kent Faith True Color ND 2:32, and that allows me to limit the light that's coming into the lens so I can have that slower shutter speed without overexposing the shots. So we'll see how that turns out. If you tilt your head 90 degrees, this is a side-by-side comparison to show you the difference that shutter speed makes on how a time-lapse looks. A faster shutter speed will get you the kind of results where each frame is frozen in time and very, very sharp, but doesn't look particularly natural. With the slower shutter speeds you can get with an ND filter, you get the kind of motion blur that makes it look much faster moving and more natural. It can also give you a lot of other really creative things that you can do. Like you can remove people from a shot by having a really long shutter speed. Like when I was at Queen's Wharf the other day, I shot the ceiling, which had reflected everybody walking around below, but I just kind of like the shapes of the ceiling, of the squares and tiles and things like that, and I didn't want the people in the shot, so I set it to a 30-second exposure, so that as the people walk by, they just blurred out of the shot and you couldn't even see that there were any people there at all. I couldn't have done that without a neutral density filter, because even at the smallest aperture, it's still letting in way too much light if I've got a 30-second exposure. I did the same thing for this shot of the Nepalese pagoda at South Bank. But you should be aware that it won't always work. If there's somebody walking through that's wearing very light-colored clothing, if your shutter speed's around 25 or 30 seconds, then you may still see them as a ghost, like in this image. Also, if people stand still for extended periods of time, they may also show up in the photo, like this guy who was standing there taking a photo. Neutral density filters, really, really, really useful tool. Not too expensive, and the K&F ones are really quite affordable. So Kent Faith make the one that I'm talking about today. I lost my old neutral density filter that I used for so long on the Brisbane channel. I was doing a photographic job and I took it off the camera, and I'm not sure where I left it. So I lost my ND filter, and it was a real struggle to try and produce content without it. So I'm like, okay, I need a new ND filter. And just at the exact same time I was hunting for a new neutral density filter, Kent Faith sent me an email saying, hey, do you want to review some of our equipment on your YouTube channel? And I'm like, this could be perfect. So I'm like, okay, if you can send me some variable ND filters, I'll review those, because that's actually what I'm in need of right now. And so it was the perfect timing, and it worked out really well. So they've sent me two, because there's two that I was curious about trying. One is the one I've got on the camera at the moment, and that's the True Color 2:32 variable ND. I've found it really, really great to use because it's got hard stops, so you don't sort of cross over into territory where you shouldn't be. You know when you're at the minimum, you know when you're at the maximum, and it will stop either end, which is so much better than the one that I had before. And I've found it perfect for the channel. Actually, the colors with and without the ND filter, it's pretty much the same. It is true color. It's very, very accurate colors. At least that's what I've found through taking it on and putting it off. Taking it off and putting it on. Yeah, great little filter. Really recommend it if you have a YouTube channel and you want to, improve the quality of your visuals. You want to have maybe a shallower depth of field, even when it's a bright day, then that's what's going to get it for you. Now, the other one that I tried out was this one. And this is a combination ND filter and polarizer. Photographers would be very familiar with polarizers, because what they do is they cut through haze. It helps intensify the color of the sky. Another thing, though, that's really, really handy that a polarizer will do is that it will either increase or decrease reflections in glass. So if you're shooting through glass, you can actually cut the reflections on the glass and see more of what's inside and less of what's outside. Or you can intensify the reflections so that you see more of what's outside reflecting on the glass for creative effects. That's a really, really handy thing, particularly for photographers. If you look at these photos I took at Queen's Wharf, you'll see how just turning the polarizing part of this filter changes the way the reflections appear in glass. But they also help you for video content, because you can shoot through glass. For example, this shot of the motorway, where I wanted to get the cars on the motorway, but the only place I could stand was on one side of a glass barricade. And that definitely helped cut the reflections on the glass. So really great little filters. And I've found that both of these Kent Faith filters, K&F Concept, have been really, really great to use, and they've helped me with content for the channel. So the time lapse at the beginning of this video, I had a slower shutter speed thanks to using a variable ND filter. And also this shot that I'm filming now, if I weren't to have the variable ND filter on there, the background would not be as blurry and it would not look as great. I'll just say that much. So yeah, got to say, I really highly recommend you check out the variable ND filters and also the combination variable ND polarizer, very, very handy tool to have in your toolkit if you're interested in photography or videography. And Kent Faith have been so generous to give a 20% discount for anything you order on their website. So it may be one of these ND filters, or it could be anything else. A tripod. I use a Kent Faith tripod as well for some of my video or photography. So yeah, definitely check out their website and see what they've got to offer. If you click the link below in the video description and use the code that's in the video description, then you'll get that 20% discount off as well. But anyway, that's enough about these filters. I will be back to my regular content from the next video onward, and I'll see you there. What a lot of rambling.